What you got there, Gus?
This is a Johnny Walker Black Label is what I got.
Nice.
I actually meant to make an actual martini. I pulled out some martini glasses, and then I literally had 2 minutes to get ready. And I was like, I guess I could just pour vodka into a glass and just call it a martini. But I wanted to work a little bit harder than that.
Yes, exactly. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like that we are live over here then right now, and we're joined right now with two of the epic circle of friends and one more yet to join us, and that I'm glad that Gus got off. You can see that he's a working man. He just got off of his work, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And what he's been doing, well, I'm going to talk about right now. You've been working with Games to Go, and that he is the host of that, and that's why he's looking so sharp and dapper right there. Welcome, Gus. And
thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been a game show host since I got out of college. That's
just so cool.
Yeah, it's really weird.
So how'd you get that gig, Gus?
Yeah, Scott, you and I have been friends for a really long time. I don't know if I've ever told you how I got to be a game show host, because my mom's really proud of me for going to college and then becoming a game show host.
Hold the story for just a minute.
So here's the deal, man. I started off doing Magic.
Hold the story for a second. We'll get some.
Yeah, I want to also just I want to introduce CJ then also to kind of so that way try to bring people in, and then eventually Brian when he gets in over here then too, because then I do want to hear that story then absolutely for sure. But then also the fellow who started up the Games to Go over there, CJ Johnson, who also does hypnosis and magic shows and had written the book. What was the book by the way on success? What was that?
More shows, more money.
More shows, more money, which I still recommend, and I know it's still available. I think in PDF or something.
Yeah, it's 20 years old in October was when it was released.
Yeah. And if you go back in the podcast, you can hear CJ and I talking together and goes into some more detail. I recommend that you go back and hear that. At some point, actually, that Gus and I need to have just a one-on-one. Same thing with Brian. But since we have the three of us then right now, I'm drinking vodka martini, a little 3 olives, the blue cheese over here. And it looks like that Mr. Brian Brushwood of the Scam School is joining us over there. I can see that his hair looks like it's growing out a little bit, or is that a wig? I guess he's got to put in his headphones over here first. He's coming. So here he comes. So CJ, what were you drinking, by the way? What are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking because we just came off of a show. I've got a beer. I'm having a shock top, but I also pulled down some whiskeys, and this is whiskey that you gave me, where Scott ages it. He buys whiskey, ages it, and then bottles it for his friends. And
that's right.
I have a bottle of
the 4S, the Secret Society of Scotch Sippers.
That's awesome.
It's not what you say, just whenever you have a little bit going, good stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have some of that. It seems appropriate.
Thanks very much. And Brian is having some. I guess he's new to this podcasting thing. I believe.
It's too bad Brian doesn't do this for a living, man.
You know, that would be so cool if he actually knew more about what he was doing.
It's like Mr. Bean has joined us.
He's got a soundboard. He has no idea what to do with all of that over there. It looks.
Oh my God, Brian! Please tell me you have a fart machine in there too. That'd be awesome.
Always going to push a button to do that.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Hello.
Now we got you. Hey, Brian.
Hey, how are you guys? Oh my goodness. There's this panicked moment. So there was actually an appearance I was supposed to make, and our studio is so fancy and complicated that we couldn't make it work.
It was too sophisticated. What?
Exactly. And it drove me nuts. Are we already live, or?
We are live. We're going right now. In fact, just real quickly, already that, of course, the lovely Kim is on and says, hi. Gene Protus, hi, everyone. John Klein, hello, friends. Mark Holstein, hey, friends from Driftwood. And Fred Rosenbaum. Hey, haven't seen Fred in a while.
Hey, Fred.
Oh, my gosh.
Mark Holstein, nice mic, CJ. And Kim Hofstetter Johnson, of course, says, hi, guys. John Carter, hello, gentlemen. Jarvis, hey, y'all. What are you drinking? We'll get to that in a minute. My son, Nick Wells, said, good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, Nick.
What's up, Nick?
Nick,
And
it's so funny. Nick and I have started texting on the regular lately, and and like we made it like we did that thing where it's like, hey man, I pledge to write every day. Me too, I do. And then we did for a while, and then I waited a few days, and then I wrote him, and then it was like a week, and I'm like, hey man, is everything all right? And then I get that long, like, no man, I've just been dealing with blah, 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 blah.
Lots of issues. Yeah, the world gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
Over there. Yeah, David
Your
Hinken.
pledge means nothing.
Sue Holstein. David Hinken, Mike Miller, Trixie Bond, Ray Anderson. Hey, what is this? I could have just gone to North Austin and talked to these guys.
Doggone right.
Yeah,
Brian's
that's sort of
closer
true.
to you, Ray.
We all live in the same space, and we only get together like 2 or 3 times a year. It's like a big deal and Brian and I have been neighbors, and it's still 2 or 3 times a year.
Still don't see each other, even as neighbors.
Neighbors is understating it. We literally lived on 2 sides of the same duplex at the same time.
Wow. And still didn't see each other.
Time. Yes, exactly.
You were texting each other. Yeah.
Back
Only
when
once a
Brian and I
week, so
were
it got
business
so long.
partners, we'd see each other more in other states than we would in our own town. It was like, we'd only see each other at conferences and stuff.
That is very funny. Orlando Rodriguez also says hello, everyone. Mike Miller, hi. Nick and Susan Lewin. Michael Collins, howdy all. And Susan said, what's your cigar, CJ? Are you smoking a cigar there?
Am I in the tavern?
Of course you are. That's where we all should be, actually.
You know what? I can't read it.
I thought you were a master of improv.
No, Gus is. That's why that CJ says Gus is the better game show host.
CJ's smoking a yes and.
Yes, and. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Moving on.
It's gonna leave a.
Oh my gosh.
Got it. Okay. There you go. There's your answer to that. Over there. Okay. Just before you came on, Brian, gosh, a bunch of stuff to unpack over there that you were going to say, Gus, when you first got started, when your mom was saying, why go to college? You end up being a game show host.
So I got started doing magic and juggling and stuff like that. And when I was a kid, I went to some of these magic conferences, right, where I met CJ and Brian, actually. I have a very fond memory of being, I'm pretty sure I was 15, maybe 16. I was 16?
I know what you're getting at.
I know I was 16 too, and I know that because it was the TAOM convention, and one of the effects that they were doing on stage was they were making a Dodge Viper appear on stage. And I know that because I was backstage in the back helping, and my friend Peter was like, "Hey, I need this car moved," and tossed me the keys to a Dodge Viper. It was like, "Just back it up," and I was like, "Bro, I don't even have my permit yet, but I'm backing this car up." So I backed the car up, and then later on in the night, I've always just been we're the fun people at kind of person, and so I ended up in the after party suite, and there was a bar, but there was no bartender. And I was like, I can fix that. So I just got behind the bar and started pouring drinks. TABC, you can't get me now. I'm too grown.
And by the way, in the room, you served Harry Anderson. That's how legendary that was.
Now I remember that convention. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it seems like Rudy Kobe and Jeff McBride were there, I think, that same year.
Yep, and apparently I can make a good grasshopper when I was 16. I don't know.
Tom Mullica was there.
Yeah.
Oh my God! That was amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my introduction to these two guys. I mean, we'd known each other sort of before then, but I mean, I literally was a kid. I think I met CJ when I was 13 or 14, and we juggled
I've known you
together
for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, Kim said that you were mixing her drinks that she remembers, and you were 15 at the time. Is what she was recalling.
I might have had a 16-year-old fake ID. I don't know. Anyway, so
and who was doing the Viper illusion? Do you remember who the magician was who was doing? Sue Holstein asks who was doing
that was the opening effect of that TAOM, and what's funny is I remember one of the mics was left live, so when you were in the audience, you saw like, wah, like you heard the 2001 Thus Spoke Zarathustra theme or whatever, everything building. But then you also heard like, which by the way, I thought was part of the effect.
Right.
And then I later found out was Peter's mic left live explaining to everybody where to move stuff, but it still was an amazing opening to the whole thing.
It was a Penn and Teller style effect, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so fast forward a little bit. I went to college, and during college, to make some extra money, CJ was doing a touring illusion show, and called me up and was like, "Hey, I need a new tech guy because Brian's going off and doing magic shows." And I was like, "Great!" So I jumped in and helped run tech, and just jumped into Brian's shoes, seeing all of the jackassery that Brian had left behind on CJ's show, and
20
then
cassette tapes and.
Oh my God! Yeah, CJ, you had cassette tapes. You had like the it wasn't even an instant replay. It was like
it was a Radio Shack sound effects machine that had 99 sound effects, including a rim shot, a fart,
14.
a womp womp,
laser gun and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you just, as the tech person, you had to just remember what combinations of numbers to type for CJ's thing. But CJ, you may not know this about CJ, doesn't like to explain anything to anyone. And so he would just be like, "Yeah, you hit these numbers and stuff happens. You can't mess me up." And then he would go on stage. And so the game was always that you would type in whatever numbers you thought you remembered, and that would be the sound effect that he would get during the show. And he would just play off it. And I don't think that attitude has ever changed in all of your business practices that we've.
You know what's funny is the DNA of that attitude has descended because I don't know if CJ even did it consciously, but what it does is it forces you to work with people who are either in or out. And if they need to be told every single bit of the story, if they can't improvise, if they're not present, if they're not willing to play and riff, then they're probably not the right person for the job. And the only way, like it's sort of the philosophy of just throw them in the water and see if they can swim. And I've adopted that through a half dozen producer editors, a half dozen co-hosts, countless live shows, and over a dozen interns on the road. CJ, was that on purpose, or are you just
I'm lazy?
Okay, all right. Yeah.
CJ, I think you should write another book, like another business book, because what Brian says is absolutely true. It's like the only people that I want to work with are people who, it's like, hey, we've got a serious problem. I don't have time to explain to you how to solve that problem. I'll see you at the finish line when you get there, right? And
the way I think about it is that scene from Fight Club where the rules to get into Project Mayhem are you spend 3 days on the porch with no food, no water, and no encouragement. And if the applicant is to this, then mock them for that or whatever. But the only character who dies in Fight Club is the one who is told, who is given no encouragement and goes to walk away. And then somebody else goes, "Oh, no, come on. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine." And then that character dies.
Right.
There's something to that. Yes.
His name was Robert Paulson. That's right. Anyway, we're so now I'm in college and we're doing these shows, right? And that was all going fine. And it was such a weird time because Brian and CJ had worked so closely together for so long, and we're still working together. But Brian was just starting his touring career when I got out of college, and I know that because the very first four-walled show that you did was here in Austin, Texas, and I was your tech guy for that one.
Yeah, that's when I cut my lip off live on stage.
What were you doing? How did that happen?
Okay, so
The old-fashioned way.
With a sharp knife, yeah.
Practice.
I developed a version of Banana Bandana.
Was this in the contest or your performance?
This was live on stage in front of like 70 people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there are 3 nights that we booked, and I went and promoted, and I was very thrilled to have filled up the theater. This is the Hideout Theater, which is now a legendary epicenter of improv here in Austin, Texas. It was the early days of me developing this routine. That was the idea was, what if Banana Bandana was a gruesome, horrifying terror show? And so the instructions were I had an actual film strip made, and I would get somebody from the audience to point it at a projector, and then a track would play and it would beep, and it was time to advance the frame, and somebody would click it forward. And again, anybody under the age of 35 has no idea what I'm talking about, and that's fine. But it turns out there used to be things called,
we understand. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, film strips, right?
Yeah.
So the idea was, instead of an audio tape for Banana Bandana or a record, it was a film strip thing. And then there's this vague phrasing that says it's the skewer through tongue trick, and grab the skewer, do the thing, and do the whatever. And then it says, but what the audience didn't see is that you really switched the real skewer for the fake one. And I hold up, the arrow through head illusion style bent skewer, and then there's confusion, and then it says, but don't worry, if you've messed it up, just grab the pair of emergency shears and cut it off. And then I hold it up to my tongue, the joke being like I'm about to cut up my tongue.
Right.
And then the recording says, that's right, just cut it off. And so this is I believe the first year I was working stuff out. So I wasn't really clear on how much to play act while I did all of that stuff. And so I scissored a little too scissory, and so I do successfully take, the fake tongue comes out, the fake blood comes off, I hold up, and the routine ends, and I get to the end, and I swish out my mouth, and I spit the fake blood out, and then I take the towel and I kind of pat everything up, and then I pat up a little bit more. There's a little bit more blood. Pat up a little bit more. Boy, there's a lot of blood. And then I keep on patting, and I realize that I have severely cut my lip. And as a matter of fact, to this very day, you can see about a half-inch long white scar on the inside of my lip. I will spare you showing it.
Did you have it stitched up, I guess?
No. Oh, goodness, no. This was
Show business.
Like, come on, like I can afford that. So, but the very next day, and this is how I knew, because I had only met Gus once before when he was serving me drinks underage as an unlicensed bartender, and the second time as my stagehand at the first four-walled show that I was doing. I knew we would be friends forever, because the very next day I pick up the scissors and I get to that part of the show, which, by the way, very awkward to have to do 4 whole routines with a curled up paper towel held to the corner of your mouth. As you move into mentalism very quickly. You start to describe, you're thinking of a number, 2 digits, they're different, both odd, between 1 and 100. It was that second day that I picked up the shears, and I saw a handwritten note that said, remember, cut tongue, not lips.
That Gus had written for you.
Which, by the way, is still on that pair of shoes to this very day, 20 years later.
Oh, it's freaking awesome.
Brian, you remember we're in Athens, Texas, and I sliced my hand open on the zigzag blade, and I'm just dripping blood onto the stage, and we can't find anything to clean it up with. and all of a sudden over the backdrop just flies Brian's shirt.
Do you know what's funny is I
backstage.
have no memory of that event happening, but I'm picturing it and I'm thinking two things. Number one, finally a magician willing to actually prove that the blades are sharp. Two, I think in that situation, I'd just take off my shirts. So it turns out I was right on both accounts.
Totally did. I wonder if Bonnie might remember that.
She probably does. I'm surprised that no one rushed on the stage and tried to help you or saying, hey, let's stop or the show. This is a real thing. Just kept on plugging through it.
Yeah, just kept on going. Brian, I don't know what he did for his shirt the rest of the show. I think maybe he had that was back when we wore shirts and shirts over.
I mean,
that,
all of this feels like you're just daring me to take off my shirt right now.
That's what it sounds like.
I don't think you would do that. I don't think you would go that far, Brian.
Okay, oh, that is a dare. Okay, you just wait. You just wait.
Hey, by the way, what are you drinking?
How'd you get into game shows?
What are we drinking, by the way? Brian, what have you got?
You know what? I got a weird one I found on the road.
Vernors?
And, it's a High Alai India Pale Ale.
Cigar Brewing?
Yeah. Cigar City Brewing. I believe they used to be regional to Florida, but then I started finding them locally. And it's a good smooth. It's the thing I like about IPAs is that they don't let you get confused about whether or not you're drinking.
Yes, that's for sure.
Any drink that you can forget that there's booze in it is dangerous. So I like IPAs because every single sip says, "Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. What are you doing?"
Gus, what are you
Cigar
drinking?
City Brewing has a wheat beer. I like wheat beers. They have one called Florida Cracker that is just, it tastes like somebody mashed up saltines in the beer, and it's pretty delish.
Oh my God! Do you remember?
Black Label.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I was 12, I told my dad, someday I hope to drink alcohol, and I hope it tastes like smashed up saltines. And my
So
dad
it's come to fruition.
laughed and laughed
really
and
happened?
said that will never happen.
It doesn't taste like that, but you can feel like you can tell that there's a cracker taste to it.
No, it's so weird because then I told my dad, I don't want it to taste like that. I just want it to feel like there's a cracker taste to it. And then,
That's kind of a
and then
saltine flavor.
He explained to me about racial relations and the context of that word. It was very weird.
You're a white cracker. Yeah.
The ACLU is just like Brian Brushwood.
Anyhow, I can see that you're drinking a little bit of Black Label over there. If I could just have you raise your glass over there, first of all, just want to say cheers. Haven't had a chance to thank you guys very much for coming on over there, and cheers very much to each and every one of you. Thank you for being on here tonight. And
oh my goodness, so much. Thank you so much for giving us an excuse to hang out. It's so, I mean, we live so far away from each other.
You know, it's called the Epic Circle of Friends, and that I think what's kind of cool is that you guys have such experiences and shared experiences that you don't even really have to talk about it, and that and a lot of these things are kept secret. I felt like I was kind of on the outer circle of the inner circle one time when we were together in Vegas that we won't talk about. That was just a wonderful.
That was a good time.
That was a great time,
great
and I
time.
kind of felt like, hey, so this is what it's like to be with the cool kids, you know. So
Well, and I think it boils down to sort of a shorthand of ways to very quickly over-escalate things. like and there's not
it's a
much
fine line,
more than
very
that,
fine
right?
line. Yeah.
Also, it's just this theme, this story sort of runs throughout this whole talk. But like Brian, you started with CJ when you were what, like 15, 18?
19, I think.
19?
I just, as a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, we should raise a glass because it was Ramon Galindo that brought us together. I remember performing at the Austin Magic Club.
GAOM? Oh,
Yeah, the local Austin Magic Club. Ramon was the one who always loved to videotape. Somewhere out there is a mini DV or a 8mm DV or whatever of my very first Magic performance in his estate. And I did the close-up performance. I think I was 19, maybe, I guess 19, just for 20 people at the local club. And CJ just happened to that day be shopping for somebody who knew how to press play at the right time on a cassette player, and the rest writes itself. So that's how you become a success. Just do close up and let CJ tell you he'll give you $50 if you'll press play.
But you're on your own for some foods, so
yeah.
So he was kind of the creator. He was the godfather of the group, it sounds like.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And
well, before that, the reason the reason I said yes to press play for $50 whole from CJ Johnson was because I saw him perform on stage at TAOM, my very first Magic convention, in which, if I'm not mistaken, CJ stood on a 4-wheeled rolling platform, slipped, and fell on his ass live in front of 2,000 people.
Oh, man.
All part of the act, folks.
That was the phrase. Because what's funny is I can remember almost no other act, but I remember watching you have an absolute shit show of tech problems and never for 1 second looking rattled and clearly having a good time. Like clearly ha, so this is showbiz, huh? And that's why Gordon and I talked about later, I think that guy was our favorite because he had all of the problems and nothing worked and everything went wrong, and he could not care.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Live and learn, during that. Just real quick, just to kind of catch up with a couple people who have kind of added in over here, who had a few comments. Looks like Eric Diddleman is watching.
Right on.
Yeah. Hey, Diddleman.
Jerry Costello, Michael Collins, James Caldwell. Of course, he was just hanging out with you guys just a short time ago. He said, I still have some of those machines. Rick Schultz said, by the way, that was Harry Anderson, Chef Anton, and Martin Lewis, the Left-Handed League, were there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was a fairly legendary collection of a reunion.
Yep. That's kind of what, in fact, Fred Rosenbaum said, yes, a reunion in Austin, the TAOM. And that, when you were telling your story about cutting your lip, that Kim, CJ's wife, was saying, yeah, I've heard that story. That's funny. Jamie Salinas, watching Rick Schultz, said that Harry and Chef Anton were pretty stoned, interrupted Martin's lecture, which he did not appreciate.
I do remember the interruption. I had no idea that they were altered in any way. I know that they just sort of burst in. I remember the moment where it's like Martin was in the middle of his lecture and Harry kind of walked in and had a question, and it was a mundane question, just like, hey, which way is the mini bar? And then, and Martin was just like, I'm in the middle of a lecture. He's just like, don't dodge the question. and then he finishes, turns around, walks off, and then there's this pause, and Martin Lewis says, and they wonder why we broke up.
Great line. Jerry Costello said that Southwest Florida has done great breweries down there, and that said Highlight Brewing from Tampa, I think, is great. Dave McGee's watching. Hey, Dave. And Susan Lewin said, Nick said, I have great Cuban coffee porter here. Errol Lipschitz is watching. Daniel Will from California. And then Mark Holstein says, can't wait to have you all back over here. Rick Schultz says, mostly, let's see, what is it? That was it. Jay Zugai was there. Said he handled it with style. He said, as far as Martin Lewis, he said, I use that line if I ever slip up.
I always like to say Jay Zugai's name like Fumio says it is Jay Zugai.
See,
I like very well.
What's funny is I like the way that Michael Amar says it. He goes, Jay Zugai.
Okay, we're still getting back kind of roundabout to the story. So you then, Gus, were in college, going back to being a game show host.
What story? Oh,
That's my job. I'm the host. I kind of bring us back into focus here.
all right. So, okay, where was it? Brian, to help Brian. Okay, went to college to help CJ. CJ and I guess my senior year, I got busy. I was going out. I was doing my own magic shows, and trying to make my living full time doing magic. And I graduated from the University of Texas, and then I remember, I graduated I was already doing my own business. I was already performing magic shows.
Yeah.
And it's so funny looking back at my college years, because I think I had more liquid capital when I was in college than I can remember as an adult. I mean,
kind of liquid capital
was great.
Yes,
I had
right. I mean, he was pouring the drinks for Harry Anderson.
Yeah, that's right. I was throwing keys to my Dodge Vipers. It was great, man. Those are the days. So anyway, I graduated with like this very generic liberal arts degree, and was sort of sitting around after I got out of college, like, okay, is magic full time? Is that what I'm going to do? And I was trying to figure it out and how that was going to work. And here's how I remember it. And I don't know if this is 100% true, but I swear to you, this is how I remember it. I remember that one day I was sitting around and I got a phone call from CJ. And the phone call went like this. He's like, "Hey man, Brian and I have been doing this whole business here at in the college agency, the college market, and I was thinking it's time to diversify. And I have this crazy idea for this game show company. And I was kicking around ideas, and I think you'd be a pretty good game show host. Do you want to be a game show host?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Great." And then he hung up the phone.
By the way, I remember this same conversation. My version was CJ saying, "I have to go out and do things by myself. What if I made a business where somebody else did things? Who would be good? Who's not me?" Gus is pretty good.
Dead on impersonation of me, by the way. Dead on.
That is good.
So I got that call, and I mean, I didn't know if CJ was kidding. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know anything about it. I was like, I guess I'm a game show host now.
I am 100% certain that CJ didn't know whether or not he was serious
and I can
or
prove
not
that
at the
because
time.
here's what happened. About 2 months later, CJ calls me and he's like, "All right, guy, here's the deal. I've got our first 3 shows booked. You're going to fly out to this city, and I'll meet you there, and we're going to do these shows."
You hadn't even practiced. You hadn't rehearsed. You
Wait,
hadn't given
I was like, that's a good question, because that's exactly what I asked. I was like, "Hey, are we going to rehearse, or do I need to know how the shows works?" And he's like, "No, we'll figure it out when we get there."
You got it.
You got it, kid.
Pause. This goes back to the true wisdom of CJ Johnson. If you're right for it, you will not drown. If you are not right for
You're
it,
not right for it.
That may have been your first and last show as a host.
Yeah,
anyway.
absolutely. So Scott, I show up to our first school. CJ, what school was it?
I think it was A&M Kingsville.
Yeah.
It was A&M Kingsville, and then UT Tyler.
And probably that one in Louisiana that you guys were cozy with.
Oh man, maybe
It doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter, because the first 2 are the most.
No, wait, I remember. It was Yes and University.
Yes and University.
Yes and. Yes and.
God damn.
Where they make the cigars.
Totally accredited.
Call back.
Anyway,
Hello.
so I get to the first show, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, "Where's the show? What show are we doing?" And CJ's like, wait for it. And then the FedEx truck comes and delivers our show in boxes.
My favorite part of this is that there's no doubt that that's exactly how it went.
You'll be here any minute. Wait for it. He's coming. There he is.
FedEx truck shows up to the school and says, you CJ Johnson? He's like, "Yes," and signs off for it. And then these pallets come off the truck, and their game show equipment still in cardboard boxes, and we're pulling packing peanuts out, and CJ's like, "Yeah, I think that's gonna go I don't know, put that on the stage somewhere. We'll figure it out."
Wow.
And this is 4 hours before the show starts.
Yeah.
I want to believe
They're 4
that
hours
the
early?
next- I want to believe that around this time, CJ looks to you and says, "You've seen a game show before, right?"
You know how they work. There's somebody who is an MC, and he kind of is a host, and he talks and asks people questions. You can handle it. You're good. That's fine.
And then meanwhile, Gus is just like, "Man, I was there when Brian cut off his bottom lip. Don't even worry."
I've seen it all. How much worse did it get?
No blood? What do you? This is weak sauce, CJ Johnson.
I'm just looking for the Viper.
Oh my god. So we unpack these boxes, and CJ's like, okay, in my head, these banners get hung up. And I'm like, great, how are we hanging these banners up? He's like, that's a great question that I'm sure you can figure out on your own. And I was like, all right, sure. You know? What's crazy, Scott, is that, you know, and I know this is true for Brian as well, but, you know, you do something for the first time because you have to. It's do or die. It's now or never. And then that's just the stuff that sticks with the show. I mean, the way I hung those banners was with some zip ties, and those zip ties stayed on those banners for like the next 6 years. Like it works. You know, that's not the stuff that people are going to see. Doesn't matter. Let's just get them hung, you know? And so we set up the show and read the instruction manuals on how to plug things in and make them make noise. And then CJ was like, all right, it's time for you to learn the team prayer. Let's do it. And then
the team prayer
microphone.
being something stolen from a George Carlin routine where he just says all of the worst cursing that he could think of in like 30 seconds. That is, and you can find it. It's an HBO special. We're not going to say it here.
Yeah.
And we have never started a show without a live show without doing that. We have stopped the start of a show so that I could run from the back of the house and we could team prayer. So for 27 years, since I've been doing,
It's the 9 worst words you can't say on TV, right?
It's not ish. It's a little more rhythmic.
It's a little bit more rhythmic.
Yes.
But yeah, we have not started a show in years without saying it. And some people are a little freaked out that we're going to do a team prayer, but it's just to get all of that vile out of us before we go on. We have to do a clean show.
And CJ, I don't know if you know this or not, but James and I still do that over the phone before each virtual show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
you know, great.
What I think is interesting
anyway,
also, going back to those days, I have been to CJ's house and I've seen those boxes of those tubes and all that kind of stuff. I've seen what you got now, which is much more efficient and smaller, lighter, and the LEDs, et cetera, and all those tubes and lights and everything. I can only imagine when you had that FedExed over there trying to set up all this stuff, because any little thing, if it wasn't connected quite right, is not going to work.
Oh, yeah, it works because you got
I had worked out the lighting.
Amazing.
I had worked out the lighting because I bought 4 moving head lights from Derek Kennedy up at Magic, etc.
Yeah.
And I took them to. I had a show in like, I don't know, Yonder, Texas, or something, just some tiny little town where they questioned the fact that I was wearing a
Texas
pink shirt.
Just say Idaho.
And I had them set up in my hotel room and was learning how to program DMX in my little, $40 a night hotel room.
Intelligent lighting in a stupid hotel.
Oh yeah, those are the best. Those are good days.
I do remember CJ's powerful infatuation with moving, coordinated, intelligent lighting. He was like, oh my God, these lights are gonna move, they're gonna crisscross, they're gonna sweep across the crowd. I guess we'll do a game show too. It's going to be great.
Brian, but that's funny that you say that. But I mean, that's how CJ has always been. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why all of this stuff works and has worked for so long is that CJ is an early adopter of technology. Brian, I know you are too. Those ideas are what really make the production value really cool, because he gets excited about new toys and just throws new toys at things and that makes it that does bump the value of the show.
I'll tell you what, the technology, and this is my advice to anybody getting started in magic, technology is a fickle mistress. It will feel very, very good because you will certainly be ahead of the curve of almost all magicians if you literally have any tech that was invented within the last 10 months in your show. You will have a problem 4 years later.
That's good advice. You've really been on the cutting edge, I think, a lot, Brian, and everything that you've been doing all the time, with Scam School and different kinds of things, the way you've been evolving and currently have your own compound of everything out there. Quickly, by the way, that Rick Schultz had just posted over on Facebook, a link on Facebook to that George Carlin video, in case some of you.
It's not that video.
It's not that one?
No.
Oh, okay. Thanks, CJ. I said no. It's
a little more obscure than that.
It's him. It's him. The bit is. Can we just say it? All right. So the bit is he is complaining. I believe it's an HBO special where he's complaining about how people think that all he does is get up on stage and curse. And he likes to think that he puts a little more thought into his routines. And then he does an impression of what somebody who doesn't know his work would think it is. And he goes, people think I just get up here and go, ratchet, batshit, dirty old twat, 69 assholes tied in a knot. Hooray, lizard shit, fuck. and that tickled us so much that it has become our team prayer.
Well, we start with 1 potato, 2 potato.
Correct.
Okay, so back to you, Gus. So you that was your first experience then as the game show host. And so you decided, hey, I like this. I'm going to continue. And CJ said, good job. You figured it out and you get a second chance.
Yeah, man. Well, like I said, my background was teaching and performing and doing magic shows, and so it was really, really weird to be thrown into the spot of a game show host, which is a completely different character and different skill set. But the adrenaline rush and the audience management is very, very similar. There's a lot of crossover there, and so it fit me scarily well to do those game shows. And even at the very beginning, where I didn't have a clue what I was doing or how it was supposed to work, it was really, it was a good fit for me. And then the other thing that was really interesting was getting to be in you start this off by talking about the epic circle, but it was really interesting getting into I was with CJ and Brian were still working together in the college market. So when we'd go and do college tours or showcases, I would go and Brian, CJ, and I would all share a hotel and try to make that situation work. And just watching them, like learning from them and seeing their sales tactics and their how they would get in with schools and create those bonds of friendship and professionalism and loyalty and stuff like that was really eye-opening. And so that was, the apprenticeship and the friendship is really what kept it going. And then we got to a spot where I got to be really creative. It was really interesting. I came in at the time where Brian was sort of phasing out into doing his own thing with his own agency. And going back to that technology thing, Brian, I don't know, do you remember being at one of those conferences? And it was like, we were at those conferences when the first iPhone came out. So Brian would wear like his iPhone on a lanyard around his neck because he was one of the first people that had one. And then like the next year,
let's paint the whole picture.
Right.
It wasn't just showing off an iPhone. It was an iPhone showing off my demo video.
So as you walk around, you had a video.
You can't help but look down and see me eating fire and escaping from a straitjacket and all that stuff. Yes.
All right, man. Hey, look, if I offended you, I am so sorry, bro. But yeah, like Brian was always the one who was on the cutting edge of technology. And one of the ones that I really remember, Brian, was you had this crazy idea that you were like, look, I think if I bring 15 TVs to this one conference and set them up as like my own personal fort, that I can play and sync all of my videos onto these TVs. And like, I still don't actually know how you did all of that.
Oh, we don't have the time. But yeah, here's the way things tend to happen. Is you that was in the early days of me realizing what is nobody doing that will instantly make an impact on visually and tell a very quick story that sets me apart from everybody else. And in this case, I was thinking of, in the college market in those days, 20 years ago, it was just, you had pipe and drape. You had a little sign if you were, fancy or whatever. And that was about it. And then walking through Walmart, I saw that they were phasing out CRT televisions, they were flat screen, but they were CRT. They were like 40 pounds a piece or whatever.
Pretty heavy, yeah.
But they were only $67 a piece because it was Black Friday. And I was like, man, if I had 8 of those and I could put my 2 big monitors on top, and I bet I could, that'd be impressive. And so I bought them first. And I remember the moment that I took the very last one, and a lady walked up and goes, "Asshole." but I bought 8 CRT televisions, and I'm like, man, this is really gonna be a pain in the
I'm about
butt.
to have the best duck hunt experience of my entire life.
And then I figured out how to take, okay, so if I stagger them up, down, zigzag, and then I put them into, I can get this at Radio Shack for $40. That'll be one monitor output. The other one will be another monitor output. And then what if it turns out there's a program that can take a screen and split it into 4 different parts. And I know 3D Studio Max. Let me open up the old Autodesk here and play with it or whatever. And so what I made was what essentially looked like an almost Vegas style scrolling thing that would crossfade into 4 televisions showing me doing one thing, 4 televisions showing laurel wreaths. By the way, here's a pro hack: just put laurel wreaths around literally anything you want to say. Nobody will ever double check your work. Also say whatever quote you want, because nobody's going to check whether or not Jay Leno said it about you. So just and so it was just this multimedia extravaganza or whatever. It took 4 to 6 hours to set up every single time, but in a world where everyone else was so proud of themselves that they would walk into their booth, they would take their 3 zip stands and go zip, blip, zip, blip, zip, blip. I'm all set up. Ha ha, I'm cool because I work very little. I'm like, meanwhile, I'm drenched in sweat, literally assembling pipe and plywood and drilling stuff in and setting up 8. Again, each one of these TVs was like 2,000 pounds. Setting it all up and tech supporting, but I'll be damned if it didn't make an impression when things actually got started there.
It looked great.
It just reeked of effort. Is basically.
CJ, were you with him at that time?
No, we weren't. We had split ways as business partners at that point in time, but we made very sure that everybody knew that it wasn't like a breaking of our friendship. It was just that now I had my hypnosis shows and I had game shows, and it made sense for Brian he was busier doing his bizarre magic stuff, and I was branching out and had different things. So
is that about the time, Brian, you started doing your TV show, the life hacks and stuff?
No. That would have been a good 5 years beforehand. That would have been at me peak investing in the college market. And also that would have been around the time that I was auditioning for stuff like when I did Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal Orlando.
Oh, there. Yeah. I remember Nick telling me about that. Yeah.
Which, by the way, a friend of mine from Hollywood who had acting talents said, "Hey, do me a favor, would you stop saying Horror Nights?" I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, nobody hears anything but the word whore.
Yeah. It sounds like prostitute.
He goes, you will pronounce it horror from now on. And I'm like,
Brian,
okay.
Brian, that was about the time you were starting your experience of BB on the road.
Yeah. Brian Brushwood on the road. As a matter of fact, with Nick Wells.
Right.
What happened was this would have been around 2003, 2004. I started to get courted by Court TV, ironically, which is now has become True TV, which has had a number of Magic successes and Impractical Jokers and all that stuff.
Carbonaro Effect.
Yes, and so they wanted me to develop some stuff. I had never done a TV thing before, so we did a pitch reel, scissor reel. It's like a half step shy of a pilot, but midway through, I didn't know this at the time, but in Hollywood, man, it's a churn. Everybody's moving, and oftentimes projects are championed by somebody, brought in, and then handed off to somebody who doesn't really get it or care. And I was one of those projects. And so we ended up with, like, the whole time we're shooting this thing, I'm like, these are bad decisions, but what do I know? I've never done TV. And so they, by the time we had the final reel, they were like, yeah, it's a pass for us. And I'm like, well, now what? And they're all like, well, I don't know, do whatever you want. And I was like, and I thought to myself, okay, if I wanted to hire somebody to host a TV show, what is the number one thing I would want from them? And I thought, I would want them to have already hosted a TV show.
So they'd be well known, be a celebrity of it already.
Well, not even that. Just to know how to host a TV show. And what I learned from street performing is that you have to be bad before you become good. What I learned before when it came to running tech for CJ is that you had to be bad before you become good. What I learned when it came to doing college shows is you have to be bad before you become good. And it's like, oh my God, I need a place to be bad as a TV show host so I can learn how to be good. And so this was what, 2005, 2006. So
Gus is saying 4.
It is after 2000, so I'll give you 2005.
Yeah. So 2005, there are two things that are happening. One is the launch of the video iPod. So, and for the first time, you're seeing very, very low quality, very small videos, but they're from the ABC Morning News, and you're starting to see some of these crazy, Tiki Bar TV and all of that stuff. You're seeing Red versus Blue, which would later become Rooster Teeth, a 3-digit multi-million-dollar empire. But I saw the potential. I'm like, oh my God, I can look like these guys, and I can say I have a show. And furthermore, also YouTube launched in 2005. And so at this point, I think, man, if I just start doing a show, then I get to, number one, say I have a show. And nobody can call me a liar because I can point to it. And so, and to be honest, between you, me, and the wall, all I cared about is every time I talked to a college entertainment board, I wanted, instead of it saying Brian Brushwood, Bizarre Magician, I wanted it to say Brian Brushwood, host of Brian Brushwood on the Road, and then give a link to a bunch of shows. And so there was this evaluation, and it's like, okay, what do I have? And of all the years, it was Nick Wells was it was his second year as my assistant on the road.
He was like your first intern. I remember he didn't like he didn't like bacon, and you were talking to him back then about Firefly and all that.
Yeah, but what's funny is he was my first intern, but it was his second tour of duty that we were going back on the road together. So I already knew that he was fun and funny, and that we had wacky conversations on the road.
And so you did that thing on Food Network also for the hot food with the How to Eat Fire.
That's right. I quote unquote taught him for the first time how to eat fire.
Yeah.
But all I had was a couple of crappy cameras and somebody who I knew was talented and funny. And so the entire show is a bunch of vignettes that really nobody watched. I mean, they're what, 15, 16 years now. And I think they've been seen like maybe 10,000 times or whatever.
Wow.
which by the way, I am intending to convey as a small number, but I guess is a pretty big number. But during that time, by just recording hours and hours and hours of us, I don't know, asking would you rather questions and that kind of stuff, I realized that there's two Brians. There's Brian in the moment performing, and then there's Brian who has to edit this garbage into something good later. And I realized that that Brian who's performing wants to keep on talking nonstop and doesn't give clean takes of everything that he's saying. And so I learned over that year to, if I flubbed a line, it was easier to stop and start again and give it clean so that future editing Brian could use it later.
Right.
And Nick was instrumental in all of that, in being game for all the shenanigans and torturing that I did to him. But ultimately, I made no money from that project. There were 20 plus episodes. I made no money from it, but I learned all of the important lessons where when I pitched Scam School to Revision 3 down the road, I was able to point to at least something that had me. I was able to pick the 3 best episodes and say like, yeah, anyway, this is what I look like on camera. Yeah, and then having it's as Peter Thiel puts in his book 0 to 1. I mean, it's like literally anything over nothing. If what you want to do is move into an adjacent artistic venue, then at least have something that proves that you're qualified to even be bet upon. And that was definitely that project.
One of the things that I think is interesting about what you just said, that last sentence, is that that's sort of the opposite of how CJ got started in a lot of things. Because and it's honestly, I admire both of you, obviously, but I think one of the things that is crazy about CJ that I also just freaking love, dude, is that somebody be like, hey CJ, we got a check for you if you learn how to do hypnosis and come to a hypnosis show, and CJ will be like, all right, I'm a hypnotist, and we'll just, how long do I have to learn? 3 weeks. Good. And then we'll just learn how to do a hypnosis show.
What's funny is the spirit of that lives. Like literally 4 days ago, I got a phone call from somebody who's a friend of mine who said, hey, I'm going to stay at your place for a week. I'm like, cool. He goes, do you happen to have a green screen? I'm like, yeah, sure. Of course we do. And it's like, yeah, and you've got cameras. And I'm like, dummy, have you not been here? And he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to shoot this project while I'm there with you, if that's okay. I'm like, cool. And then I get these texts, and then I call him, and I'm like, hey, who's this chick and why is she asking me how much I charge? And he's like, oh, because they expect to pay for a production company. And I was like, well, how much should I charge? He was like, I don't know. How much do you charge? And so I turned to my producer and I say, hey, if you weren't doing this and you just had a side gig, how much would you charge to produce per hour, for a thing in front of a green screen? And he goes, I don't know, $25. And then I go to and then I turn and I say, we charge $100 an hour.
But no, but I mean
and then I said, oh, and another 100 for equipment rental. and there it is.
Yeah, and I think all of that, we talked about like that CJ was the godfather, but I mean, honestly, all of that attitude of like, can we make it happen? Yeah.
That is the second thing you say after the words yes. When somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
You say yes, and
here's what else I can do for you for an additional price.
Yeah, actually, you start with a flinch. You're like, oh, I mean, yes, I am a god, but I don't know if I'm a god for rent.
There was also some guy, by the way, that's part of your Epic Circle friends, and we were together in Vegas, and he was the guy that seems like to put it all together. He was the one who negotiates the deals. He said, leave it to me. Who was that guy?
Dan Martin.
Dan Martin, legend. Dan Martin. Okay. All right. Here's my Dan Martin story. Dan Martin, my goodness. This one. He is very comfortable playing the game at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a dare to him. We wanted to eat. Where do you guys want to go? Texas Roadhouse.
Tapas.
Fine.
Tapas.
It was tapas, yeah.
What? Oh, no. Maybe we're thinking of a different time, because this is when I had Mike Galante as my assistant.
Okay.
And it was a Texas Roadhouse, and he called ahead, and he goes, "Hello, I'm so and so. We would like to come eat at your restaurant." And and they're like, "Okay, well, we're currently at an hour and a half wait." And he goes, "Listen, I'm here with Mike Galante. Do you know who that is?" And she goes, "No." He goes, "He's on The Office." and she's like, "Oh." And he was like, "He's a client of mine. I would really love to make him feel great. Is there any way we could skip this hour and a half long wait you're talking about?" And she goes, "Well, let me check. Let me talk to the manager." And they come back, and then the manager's like, "Can make it happen. Not a problem." Show up, ushered right in, sat down at a seat, and then the manager comes out. He goes, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And Mike has this bruiser physique and this kind of biker look to him or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, are you Mike Galante?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." And they're like, "Which episode of The Office are you in?" He was like, "Oh, I was one of the guys in the warehouse, so it wasn't always on there." And they're like, now that I think about it, I think I remember. Like, wow. Well, thank you so much for patronizing our restaurant.
Yeah, can we get an autograph?
Texas Roadhouse.
What's funny, Brian, is CJ and I were thinking of a different story, but we don't have to say it because it worked out the exact same way.
Repeat it forever.
Yeah, we drove to the place first, and there was a huge line out front, and we're like, "Oh, let's go somewhere else." And Dan's like, "No, I got this." And he gets on the phone and he calls and he says, "May I speak to a manager?" And he makes up a name and he says, "Hi, I'm here. I'm personal assistant to magician Daniel Martin. He's appearing at the whatever convention hotel."
That's my favorite part is that he represents himself.
No, but I'm gonna put Dan on blast. And Dan, I love you, bro. He didn't make up a name. The name was Ray Benito, and that's his fake. That's his fake agent's name. And I know for a fact that he has business cards of Ray Benito as well.
So yeah, we made it into this tapas restaurant, like 10 or 12 of us. By the time we parked, he had worked it out. The manager said, "Come talk to me." We went in. And he's like, "Oh
my God, this is when we ended up in the stripper limo van."
That's right. What I remember about that stripper limo van is the way he negotiated the deal with that guy. He said, "No, I'm sorry." When he called him, I said, "We can't get to you for another half hour." He said, "I need you now." And he was able to get it right now.
Yeah.
I forgot that you were there for the stripper limo
He's got
van.
a superpower.
Yeah, he does have a superpower.
He does.
And also, he's a great human being. Let me also say that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I kind of got off on a tangent over there. Well, listen, guys, that we kind of, I think one of you had earlier said we probably need to have a part 2 of this, and there were several people who had made a lot of comments. I know, for an example, like Jamie Salinas had said, that CJ, you should probably tell the story, and also Brian about the wedding story. Whenever that Brian seems like that you were running late, and you were supposed to be the the officiant, I think, for the wedding, for CJ's wedding. And that you were running late or something?
That might have been.
So Brian, my wife Kim and I had a surprise wedding, and we didn't tell anyone, including James, who works for us.
Yeah.
And we're like, if we can keep it secret from James, then we've kept it secret from everyone, because we just wanted people who were coming to our party. But then James started getting a weird vibe because there were secrets going on. And the last time something like that happened at a company he worked for, he got let go.
He got fired.
And so he straight up asked Gus, he's like, "Hey man, do I need to start looking for a job?" And so we came clean with James. no, we're having a surprise wedding. Our epic karaoke party is really going to be Kim and I getting married. We've been together at that time for 20 years, but we were finally getting married. And we let Brian in on it because we wanted him to go to the bachelor party. And so Gus calls Brian and says, hey, man, I need you to block off this weekend. I can't tell you why, but I need you to block off this date. And he's like, okay. And then I called him and told him why. And I'm like, but you can't tell anyone, not even Bonnie, because I want it to be a surprise for her. And then I tell him what's up, and he's like, man, I can't hide this from Bonnie because she's upset that
Bonnie is Brian's
wife.
Yeah.
And she's upset because Gus calls and says, I need you to block off a weekend, and you're so busy, it's hard for me to get a date. And I'm telling Brian, like, man, I got to tell Bonnie. And he's like, my marriage it's gonna make a difference. So I'm like, all right, well, you can tell Bonnie. But I told him because I wanted him to be part of the bachelor party, because the bachelor party was only the people who were, in the wedding party. So
yeah, one of them was a lazy ass no-show.
But then Brian had 2 flat tires on the way to our wedding.
Yeah.
We held as long as we could. And then he's like,
and it was David Hyra that called, and man, David Hyra has the best bedside manner. If you were to picture how you're going to explain to somebody who's in the wedding party that you're about to be dropped from the wedding party in the last 5 minutes before a wedding, you could not do better than David Hyra, who called and said, hey man, so how's everything going? And it was like, okay, well, they replaced the first tire, and then that one popped, and then, we're midway through the second tire. And he goes, yeah, okay. Hey, so sometimes a doctor is in a maternity ward, and he looks and he says, it's time for the baby. And, it's not really up to the doctor. It's up to the baby. It's time to deliver this baby. and it's like, I instantly knew exactly what he meant. And I was just like, I'll see you when I get there.
We had hired a driver because we had people at hotels and stuff, and we didn't want anybody driving home drunk. And so we had a driver, and we sent him out to get the people that were riding with Brian. Or no, Jamie Salinas picked him up.
That's right. Jamie picked him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jamie Salinas picked up Gordon, who I didn't even know was coming.
That was my surprise to you. So that time that you told me to definitely not betray your trust, I definitely betrayed your trust so that I could give you the gift of Gordon being the surprise guest.
That was totally worth it. So anyway, the whole party, we throw big, what we call epic karaoke parties once every 3 to 5 years. And
not this year. This is not a good year for that.
Not a good year.
2020 is not good.
But we disguised our wedding as an epic karaoke party, and our friends came in. We had about 100, 110, 120 people, depending on what time of night we were. And they all came to our epic karaoke party. And the party before that, we'd had entertainment. We had Bob Sheets come in and do magic. We'd had Rebecca Loebe singing some songs for us, and
from The Voice, for those who don't know.
And yeah, she was on season 1 of The Voice and is a sweetheart. And so everybody, we're gathering everybody together, and David Hyra was the one who performed the ceremony, and he gathered everybody around on our deck, which we had built with this event in mind. Gathered everybody around for things to get started, and then said, well, we can't start without Kim. Where's Kim? And about that time, those moving headlights all turned and focused on Kim standing at the end of the walkway in a wedding dress with our son in his Marine Corps dress blues, walking her down the aisle for us to get married. And it was a big shock because, one, we'd been together for 20 years. Everybody assumed that we were already married. And so you hear, we had some cell phone footage video where somebody said, oh my God, they're getting married. And somebody else, or they're renewing their vows. And somebody else was like, no, they're getting married.
That's nice.
Everybody. And, maybe 10, 15 people of the 100 that were there knew that it was a wedding. The people in the wedding party and our immediate families, and everybody else was surprised. And it was awesome. It was a great party. It was very seldom do you plan something big that goes off perfectly and exactly the way you imagine.
Like right down to the detail of secretly excluding one of the supposed party members.
I'll be honest, Brian,
I agree, man. That was quite a heist.
Popping both your tires was honestly very difficult. So, I mean, like just accept the amount of work that it took to get both tires without you knowing,
Well done, Gus.
Hey, thanks, man.
Kim posted, by the way, also that it took me 20 years for that to happen, and Brian made it even longer.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Yeah, Susan Lewin said it was a great surprise party. Well, listen, we probably do need to make this into a second episode sometime. Thank you guys so very much. This has been just delightful to kind of catch up, and that I know we can go on for the rest of the night talking.
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Easily so. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Gus. And thank you, CJ. Cheers to each of you guys. I appreciate you being on the podcast. I'm used to doing that on this episode tonight on Magic and Martinis. This has been great. And so thanks a lot.
It was fun. Good excuse to hang out.
Good time.
All right,
So until next time.